So this video is the series of steps that I take when trying to get Giselle into breeding mode. So it'll be going through courtship rituals and sort of the day-to-day to get her to lay eggs. So you can see here I've started going in with her. This is after her hunting season has ended. So she's been put up for the molt and being fed as much food as she wanted for about 2 weeks. Then I start going in with her on a daily basis, 2 to 3 times a day, offering her food and spending time with her. You can see in the first video clip she had no response, and the second she started lifting her tail a bit. And you can see in this one she's starting to open her and flare her tail coverts, the white feathers beneath her tail. And she's also chupping a bit and calling and making some noises. And that's what I want to see when trying to go through the courtship rituals and getting her ready to lay eggs. So once we get to this point where she is starting to flare her tail coverts and she is chupping and responding, then we start building the nest. So here you can see I'm using a motorcycle tire and I'm putting in pine boughs or conifer boughs and leaves or needles, whatever you want to call them, to help her to start build the base of the nest. Mostly the males build the nest, but the females do come in and work on them a bit. And you'll see that I added astroturf and carpet to the wood around the nest platform. And what I like to do is kind of overfill the nest with materials, and then Giselle will end up coming in and removing them to her liking. So you'll see here that I've scattered some nesting material on the floor, sticks and pine boughs and needles and branches. And you can see here that she's taking it up to the nest site and building the nest as well. Again, she kind of adjusts the nest to her liking. And so all of this is started around March, and she'll end up laying her first eggs in April. And so here you can see very obvious flaring as soon as I walk into the mews. She's lifting her tail, she's chupping and even throwing her head a little bit here. And so it's very obvious that she's starting to come right along and get closer and closer to egg laying. And so then it's time to, in my case at least, find goshawk semen that I can artificially inseminate her with, and to start keeping an eye on her cloaca and her brood patch, because that will give you an idea of how soon it'll be until she lays eggs. So the next couple clips are going to be close-ups of her cloaca so that you can see the transition and what you're starting to look for. Again, here you can see she's very active in the nest, building it and working on it and calling. So in this next clip here, we will take a closer look under her tail. And you'll see at first that the cloaca is fairly small and very round shaped here, and there's a lot of feathers around the area, the small white feathers. And in the following clips, what you'll find is that the cloaca actually starts to get a little larger and become more oval shaped or widen out. And you'll see that she's starting to lose the feathers around her cloaca, especially below it, where her brood patch is. You can see I'm kind of moving the feathers out of the way there, and you can see that she is losing those feathers. And they lose those feathers so that way when they're laying, the eggs can get in contact with the actual skin of their body and remain at an appropriate temperature for hatching the eggs. So you can see here it's very obvious now that she's lost a lot of the feathering in her brood patch, and her cloaca has widened out, fertilized the eggs. And you can see here that I've injected the semen into her, and I'm patting her back because it actually helps them to sort of suck up the semen into the proper holding area. Male goshawks, all birds of prey, and most birds in general, excluding ducks and some other ones, they deposit the semen from cloaca to cloaca. They don't actually inject it inside the female. So here's a close-up of me going in and artificially inseminating Giselle, and here I'm patting her on the back to get her to try to actually suck in the semen, which is part of their physiological process to fertilize the eggs. And here's just another angle of that. And you hope it works. I'm not a professional breeder. I'm doing this more for fun and for the journey of it. And so I wouldn't necessarily do what I'm doing or take my word for it. Again, I'm not a professional, and I'll be the first to say I don't know what I'm doing, but it's definitely fun to try. So Giselle ended up laying 3 eggs this season, and you can see them here. And what I'm doing with her now is I'm going in 3 times a day and feeding her. And what I'm doing is plucking the quail or skinning the mice and giving her small amounts so that way she's not off the nest for too long a period of time. In this way, she's only off the nest for about 10 to 15 minutes, about 3 times a day. She will sometimes come off to drink water. A couple times there was a snake around that she alerted me to, and I'd come out and help move the snake off. We have a lot of gopher snakes around here. Her mews is located in an avocado orchard behind my house on the north side of my house. Living in Southern California, the main issue here is heat. And so that's what I'm mostly dealing with all the time. And so I'm trying to reduce the heat level she has to deal with. And also trying to keep her, on the nest as much as possible. So you can see here she's keeping her feet folded, and she's getting comfortable and settling in on the eggs. And hopefully in 40 days we'll have some babies. So thanks for watching, and I'll continue to update as I get more.